Let's start our first news. The idea of Dustin Poirier returning to the UFC might have sounded impossible just a few weeks ago, but now the door appears to be slightly open. Speaking during a recent interview with One-on-One MMA, Dustin made it clear that retirement does not necessarily mean the end of his fighting career forever. While he is enjoying life away from competition, he revealed that he is still under contract with the UFC, and that leaves the possibility of a comeback very much alive. According to Dustin, there is definitely a chance that fans could see him back inside the octagon if the circumstances are right. He explained that everything depends on the opponent and the opportunity presented to him. If the UFC offers the right fight, he would seriously consider putting the gloves back on and competing once again. One name immediately stood out from his comments, and that was Conor. Dustin admitted that a fourth fight with Conor would absolutely interest him if the matchup ever became possible. Considering their rivalry is currently tied at 1 win apiece in completed fights, with their third meeting ending in dramatic fashion due to Conor's injury, there is still plenty of unfinished business between the two former rivals. Dustin also mentioned Nate Diaz as another opponent capable of bringing him back for one more run. Beyond that, he hinted that there are still a few matchups out there that continue to motivate him. Another name that caught attention was Gaethje. Dustin pointed out that their series stands at 1 win each, and he believes that rivalry deserves closure. For now, retirement remains the plan, but the possibility of one final return is clearly still alive. Move on to another news. Paddy Pimblett believes UFC 3329 could set up one of the biggest fights possible for him, a showdown with Conor later this year. With Conor scheduled to headline UFC 329 against Max Holloway, and Paddy competing in the co-main event against Benoit Saint-Denis, Paddy sees a clear path toward a massive clash if both men have their hands raised on fight night. According to Paddy, the perfect fight for him would be Conor. He admitted that his career has taken a strange turn recently, especially after suffering his first defeat inside the UFC. Despite winning 7 fights in a row before that, Paddy feels his popularity and momentum never increased as much as they did following his loss. He pointed to victories over fighters such as Michael Chandler, Bobby Green, and Tony Ferguson, explaining that many fans never gave him the same level of attention after those wins. Ironically, after spending 5 rounds taking damage and coming out on the losing end, he believes his stock actually rose higher than ever before. Paddy openly admitted that he lost the fight in his own eyes and said there were no excuses or debates about the result. However, he finds it incredible that his profile has grown so much because of it. Sharing a card with Conor is something Paddy described as surreal. He called Conor the biggest name in the sport and said it is great to see him back competing again. He even predicted that UFC 329 could become the most watched UFC event of all time. While Paddy knows Conor will be the main attraction of the event, he believes he could emerge as the second biggest star of the night. If both men win, Paddy wants the fight to happen before the end of the year, potentially at welterweight in Madison Square Garden. Still, he understands that in MMA, one punch can change everything. Move on to another news. Jorge Masvidal has made it very clear that he does not like Conor's chances against Max Holloway when the two finally meet inside the octagon. Speaking on the latest episode of the Deep Waters podcast alongside Chris Weidman, Masvidal shared his thoughts on the highly anticipated matchup, and his prediction could not have been more one-sided. While Weidman pointed out that Conor may still believe he is the superior fighter because he already owns a victory over Max from their first meeting many years ago, Masvidal sees the fight going in a completely different direction this time around. According to Masvidal, he is fully backing Max to win the fight and is incredibly confident in the outcome. In fact, he went as far as saying he would bet the house on Max getting the job done. Even more surprisingly, Masvidal believes the fight will become completely non-competitive after the opening moments. He explained that after the first minute or two, Max will begin to take over and impose his pace on the fight. Once that happens, Masvidal expects the momentum to shift heavily in Max's favor and remain there for the rest of the contest. One of the biggest reasons behind his confidence is the activity and consistency Max has shown throughout the years. Masvidal highlighted the importance of staying active and remaining in shape, especially at the elite level of the sport. In his opinion, conditioning and activity can often outweigh pure talent or reputation. To explain his point, Masvidal used a simple comparison. He said a Ferrari might be faster and more impressive than a Honda Civic, but if the Ferrari only has a quarter tank of fuel, it is going to lose every single time. For him, the message was clear. Activity matters, and he believes Max has a huge advantage in that area. The conversation then shifted toward the first fight between the two men, a contest that Conor won despite dealing with a torn ACL and using his wrestling to secure the victory. However, both fighters were still very early in their careers at that stage. Weidman suggested that from a fighter's perspective, it can be extremely difficult to accept that an opponent you once defeated has improved more than you over the years. Fighters always believe they are evolving, improving, and reaching new levels. That mentality may be playing a role in Conor's confidence heading into the fight. He could genuinely believe that he continued to improve over the years, while Max remained the same. Masvidal, however, sees the situation very differently and expects Max to take control and leave absolutely no doubt about who the better fighter is today. Move on to another news. Paddy Pimblett has released brand new training footage as he continues preparing for his huge showdown against Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC 329. The footage gave fans a closer look at the work being done behind the scenes and showed exactly how locked in Paddy is ahead of one of the biggest fights of his career. During the clips, Paddy's coach also shared some insight into the team's preparation and made it clear that nobody in the camp is taking BSD lightly. They understand exactly how dangerous the French contender can be and know they are dealing with a relentless fighter who brings pressure from the opening seconds until the final bell. The team has spent weeks preparing for BSD's suffocating grappling, constant takedown attempts, and serious knockout power. According to the coaches, underestimating a fighter like BSD would be a massive mistake, and that is something they have absolutely refused to do throughout this training camp. Despite being fully focused on the challenge in front of him, Paddy still has his eyes on becoming one of the UFC's biggest stars. He admitted that his dream scenario after this fight would be a blockbuster matchup against Conor in what would easily become one of the biggest fights the promotion could make. When discussing his road toward the lightweight title, Paddy remained realistic about his position in the division. Even if he defeats a top-5 contender like BSD, he understands that a title shot may not come immediately. Instead of demanding an opportunity, he said he has no issue taking one more fight if that is what the UFC wants before competing for the championship. The footage also showed how carefully the camp has been structured around preparing for a southpaw opponent. Paddy's coaches explained that you cannot simply bring in random sparring partners when preparing for a fighter with a unique style. The team specifically brought in southpaws to recreate the pressure, movement, and attacks that BSD is known for inside the cage. According to the coaching staff, these sessions help Paddy build confidence in certain positions while also exposing areas that still need improvement before fight night arrives. The footage also captured the brutal reality of fight camp. Paddy spoke openly about being constantly hungry during preparation and revealed that he goes as long as 10 weeks without allowing himself a cheat day. His schedule remains relentless, with long runs, recovery sessions, like massages, and hours of rest before repeating the entire process again the following day. Everything coming out of camp suggests Paddy is preparing for the biggest test of his career and intends to be ready for every possible challenge BSD brings into the octagon. Move on to another news. Heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall has shared his prediction for the UFC 329 main event, and he believes Conor will make a spectacular return with a first-round knockout victory over Max Holloway. Speaking on his YouTube channel, Aspinall explained that after watching several recent interviews with Conor, he came away extremely impressed with both his mindset and attitude heading into the fight. According to Aspinall, Conor appears calm, focused, and mentally in a very good place ahead of his long-awaited return to the octagon. He admitted that interviews alone do not win fights, but he believes there was something different about the way Conor carried himself this time around. Aspinall pointed out that whenever Conor is at his best, he is one of the most dangerous and talented fighters the sport has ever seen. While discussing Max, Aspinall had plenty of praise for the former featherweight champion and described him as one of the greatest fighters of his generation. However, he also noted that Max did not look at his absolute best in his most recent appearance against Charles Oliveira. According to Aspinall, part of that performance may have come down to stylistic issues, as Max was dealing with a dangerous grappler throughout the contest. Against Conor, he expects a completely different fight, one that will likely remain on the feet for the majority of the action. Aspinall acknowledged that Max possesses some of the highest striking IQ in the sport and reminded fans that people often overlook just how technically brilliant he is when exchanging punches. Still, he also pointed out that Conor already owns a victory over Max from their first meeting more than a decade ago. That first fight forced Conor to adapt after suffering a torn ACL early in the contest, leading him to rely heavily on wrestling to secure the decision victory. Aspinall believes both men are completely different fighters today, and that comparing them to their younger versions is almost impossible. He highlighted Max's incredible performance against Justin Gaethje as proof that the Hawaiian star can still produce world-class performances when he is at his best. Despite Max's activity advantage and years of consistent competition, Aspinall keeps coming back to one factor above everything else: power. In his view, power never disappears, and Conor only needs one clean shot to completely change the fight. Because of that, Aspinall is leaning toward a Conor victory and believes the Irish star will land the big left hand early. His final prediction is a round 1 knockout and a statement return for one of the biggest names the sport has ever seen. Move on to another news. Du Plessis has sent a strong message ahead of his highly anticipated clash with Kamaru Usman, making it clear that he has no intention of allowing the former welterweight king to complete the perfect final chapter of his legendary career. Recently, Usman revealed that one of the main reasons he accepted the fight was because a victory over the middleweight champion would immediately place him in title contention at 185 pounds. For Usman, the opportunity represents a chance to move closer to becoming a 2-division UFC champion before eventually walking away from the sport. However, Du Plessis has other plans. Speaking in a recent interview with Fightcast, the middleweight champion explained that he fully expects Usman to rely on the same physical style and relentless pressure that made him one of the most dominant welterweights in UFC history. Despite that, Du Plessis remains completely confident that those attributes will not be enough to overcome him. According to the champion, he considers himself the most physical fighter in the entire middleweight division and believes he possesses a level of strength and durability that few opponents can match inside the octagon. At the same time, Du Plessis made it clear that he has enormous respect for Usman and everything he has accomplished throughout his career. He described sharing the cage with a fighter of Usman's caliber as a huge honor and acknowledged that facing a legend like him will force him to perform at his absolute best. Du Plessis admitted that if you step into the cage against a fighter like Usman without being fully prepared, you are putting yourself in serious danger of losing. Because of that, he says his team has made sure that this version of himself will be the best version fans have ever seen. The champion also understands the motivation driving Usman into this matchup. He knows Usman sees a path toward another title shot and possibly the opportunity to ride off into the sunset as a 2-division champion with an incredible legacy behind him. But according to Du Plessis, that story will not have a happy ending. As far as he is concerned, there is only one champion in the division, and that champion is him. Move on to another news. Paddy Pimblett is entering his UFC 329 co-main event with plenty of confidence and does not believe Benoit Saint-Denis is operating on the same level as him, heading into their massive lightweight showdown. After suffering the first loss of his UFC career, Paddy now has the opportunity to bounce back in a huge way against the number 5 ranked contender. The fight takes place inside the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, and according to Paddy, he sees several areas where he holds a clear advantage over his opponent. While Paddy showed respect for BSD and acknowledged that the French fighter is a dangerous competitor. He made it clear that he does not believe he is facing someone he has never seen before. In fact, Paddy argued that the opposite is true. According to him, BSD has never shared the cage with anyone like Paddy before, while Paddy believes he has already faced fighters with similar styles throughout his career. That experience, in his opinion, gives him a major advantage going into the contest. Paddy explained that his team has spent the entire camp preparing for every aspect of BSD's game. From his aggressive striking style to his grappling attacks and relentless pressure, the Liverpool fighter says they have built a very specific game plan designed to neutralize those weapons. When discussing the striking exchanges, Paddy did not hold back with his assessment. He stated that BSD is not as good a striker as Justin Gaethje and suggested that there are noticeable differences in the level of danger each man presents on the feet. The grappling conversation was equally direct. While Paddy acknowledged that BSD is a skilled grappler and deserves credit for his abilities, he insisted that there are levels to grappling and jiu-jitsu. In his view, BSD simply does not operate at the same standard when it comes to those areas of the fight. Looking ahead to fight night, Paddy does not expect the judges to have any role in deciding the outcome. In fact, he said he would be shocked if the fight managed to reach the third round. If the finish comes early, Paddy expects to walk away with a Performance of the Night bonus. If the fight turns into a back-and-forth battle, he believes the fans could witness a Fight of the Night contender instead. Regardless of how the fight unfolds, Paddy remains completely convinced that his hand will be raised when it is all over.